Hello and welcome to Crypto. My God, there's a lot of good news coming in today. Bitcoin's hitting all-time high modes. Oh, we're having such a good time. Let's get right into it. First and foremost, we have some beautiful news, which is that Coinbase has replaced Discover, the credit card that no one ever uses, in the S&P 500. This is awesome. One, just due to the fact that it's a TradFi product, something that's taking 2 to 3%, normalizing it across the entire globe and saying, hey, let's replace it with this digital alternative that saves you on fees and everything else involved. So really fun news there. This also means that all of those senators, everyone in the anti-crypto army that has exposure to the S&P 500 now owns crypto. And this is just fun and just desserts, and also hell yes to Coinbase for pulling it off. I'm not going to lie, there was a huge shift in my world from pre-Coinbase and post-Coinbase. Back in the day, there was really only Bitcoin and Ethereum. You would get Bitcoin by either sending a cashier's check to Japan, which turned out to be Mt. Gox, or you would go into dark back alleys and meet people that mine them themselves and buy a paper wallet off of them. Of course, Ethereum, you really had to participate in the ICO or buy it from people that did. So Coinbase getting into that game changed the face of crypto acquisition. Well earned. Fuck yeah, congratulations to Brian and team. Now, furthermore, we have the conclusion of the SEC meeting on tokenization of securities, of RWAs, things like that. I saw one takeaway where somebody in the meeting said, this is new stuff. How do we know it's going to be around for a while? Well, it's been around for a long time, and the stablecoin growth is replacing it. But if you do want to come and read the chairman of the SEC, Paul Atkins' take, I do think it's pretty nice. He basically says that this is like money as music went through in the Napster era. This movement of securities from off-chain to on-chain systems is akin to the transition of audio recordings from analog vinyl records to cassette tapes to digital software decades ago. The ability to easily encode audio in a digital file format, which could be readily transferred, modified, and stored, unlocked tremendous innovation within the music industry. Audio was freed from its boundaries as a static, fixed format creation. It suddenly was compatible and interoperable across a wide range of devices and applications. It could be combined, broken apart, programmed to form entirely new products. This also led to the development of novel hardware devices and streaming content business models, greatly benefiting consumers in the American economy. I mean, let's just go back to the days of Edison. Edison had an entire company around his cylindrical audio format. He fought tooth and nail against the flat record, saying this cylinder had better audio fidelity, and it did, but the format was not great, right? Who wants a cylinder versus a flat disc? Of course, this meant if you had music in one format, you couldn't play it on the other, vice versa. Digitization flattened that. Now you can play a song anywhere you goddamn please. And I'm on Sonos in this house and I can beam things all over the place. So really cool takeaway from the SEC. I do think they're revealing that they see the vision, they understand the power and the scale of what's to come, and that they're approaching this with a clear filter on the capacity of this industry. So a big fuck yeah to the SEC roundtable. And while these guys may be moving slowly, they're at least coming out with solid elements. Now, the Infinite Node Foundation acquires CryptoPunk IP from Yuga Labs, another piece of wonderful news. CryptoPunks are akin to the Warhols of the crypto space, of the blockchain space. The IP had moved on to Yuga Labs, the owners and founders of the Bored Apes. They really bungled basically everything they touched, and now this IP is moving on to a nonprofit with a very fascinating stewardship model. So what's very nice is to guide this journey, Node has assembled an advisory board made up of visionary voices in digital art and the history of punks. This is one of the better tidbits in this chunk. Matt Hall and John Watkinson of Larva Labs are two of the founders of punks themselves. So now you have the actual artists looking over and being the protectors of the art. It could be that CryptoPunks become some of the most well-known art in history as we continue to unpack the lore of crypto. To date, these guys from Larva Labs are the highest grossing artists of our lifetime. So this is pretty cool. It's very nice to see. We keep on Yuga Labs, Wiley Arano, and Art Blocks, Eric Calderon. Art Blocks is an NFT platform for more sophisticated artists, generally procedurally generated, so AI generated art or generative art as they might call it, but art blocks does sit outside of the realm of blockchain to be real collectible art that happens to have an on-chain signature. So this is all great. This is very healthy for the collectors of the crypto punks and for the future of what is considered the creme de la creme of art in blockchain space. And let's keep in mind, crypto punks were free once upon a time. So this is an awesome story. Now, one thing I think is kind of novel and fun and sits a little outside the parameters, Missouri legislator just passed this tax bill eliminating capital gains. This is on Bitcoin, this is on stocks, this is on cryptos, but it is nice to see some of this global competitive tax race happening state-wise, right? So we see a lot of people in the blockchain industry move to Singapore, they move to Dubai. A lot of Americans go to the only real tax break available to us, which is Puerto Rico. There is no place in the world other than Puerto Rico that gets you out of federal tax gains. So this is nice to see this competitive landscape starting to take shape. I think if I was a state, I might consider that the youngest generation really relies on speculations to make their wealth. This is because they've been priced out of the housing market. The jobs are tougher. People are looking. There's greater access to gambling apps, to investing apps. This is nothing like the stock market used to be back in the day where you needed to call a broker on the phone in order to place a trade. We can now whip up Robinhood, swipe, and buy in a couple moments. So this is a very interesting play by Missouri to say, hey, young people, do you want to come to a place that lets you retain more of that wealth? I mean, St. Louis is a very vibrant city. This is totally a viable idea for people that are, let's say, building crypto companies. There's a lot of wealth that could be attracted through eliminating this capital gains tax. Now, how that manifests through property and estates taxes, I don't know, but it's good to see it playing out. Now, one thing that did get dropped on us yesterday, and I don't love this, a bit of bad news, is Title IX Committee on Ways and Means, the one big, beautiful bill. This is coming from El Trumperino himself, and this is his bill to end all bills, the tax haven that they're coming up with. And what we have discovered is that if you hop over to page 327, Trump being the pro-crypto president, but also the anti-immigration, we have this kind of gross crossroads here between those two worlds, which is section 4475, imposition of tax. In general, there is hereby imposed on any remittance transfer a tax equal to 5% of such transfer. Now, what's really problematic is that this tax is on the sender, and there's actually a double liability. So if they don't pay the tax, they're liable for both themselves and the recipient. And this is grotesque because remittance transfers, maybe in the old TradFi world, they kind of were an interesting novel idea. You didn't always send money abroad. Crossing that geographical boundary was like a thing. And it isn't anymore. Blockchain doesn't give a fuck. We send from alphanumeric addresses to alphanumeric addresses. Doesn't matter where those addresses live. They could be going through internet service providers that are across country borders. I mean, you're routing this thing through a variety of elements. Look, if you accidentally have a VPN on, you might be routing your capital payment from yourself to yourself through a foreign country. That would be a remission transfer. And let's say I send myself $1 million to myself just because I want to do this, and it accidentally swaps through Amsterdam or something. Am I seriously supposed to spend, what is 5%, $50,000? Like, no. This literally breaks the whole stablecoin advantage. I mean, what the fuck? So we do want to see this taken out, and hopefully that will come to light. There is a lot of solid lobbying efforts in Washington, D.C. Obviously, that is making its way towards the Trump admin because this might impact a lot of their meme coin trades. Who knows? Now, last but not least, I don't have something around this, but there is some concern about the Genius bill. There's word on the street that somebody inside of high rank is trying to kill it. Unfortunately, due to due process, it has only one more shot, I believe, before the Senate gets a little more problematic and they can't bring it to the floor again. Obviously, if we just had bills coming back over and over again, it would be like a DDoS IRL. But the whispers being that someone high-ranking doesn't really like this, and it's mania. We have been crying to the heavens to regulate these businesses to say, hey, we want to build in the United States. Give us guidance, for fuck's sake. In fact, the entire Biden campaign, in my opinion, lost because of the crypto vote that moved over and was actually big enough to put Trump in place. So again, we just got to look at these lawmakers. It's obviously on the Democrat side because they had enough committed pre-vote last time to push it forward, and it was the Dems that pulled back. Their response again being something around the Trump meme coin grifts, but the stablecoin bill does not overlap with the meme coin grifts, and this is getting quite obnoxious. If we want to go back to the streaming music analog, this is like getting mad at Spotify because they're streaming an artist who said something that the government doesn't like, right? This kind of comes back to the Gore days with censoring music and putting the labels for 18 and up and on it. And it's just nuts, right? If you're talking about streaming as a service, who cares about one piece of music that is bad? That is what the Trump meme coins are. The blockchain is a technical field. The Trump meme coins are a tiny little grift that could be conducted anywhere and just happen to be conducted on blockchain. Anyway, the industry is very hopeful that we can proceed on this, that we can get closer to regulatory clarity, and any of this muck and mire that's holding it back just needs to be resolved. This is how the US dollar maintains its dominance. I mean, we need to digitize that petrodollar at some point, and maybe it becomes the Bitcoin dollar. I'm kidding. It's a ridiculous idea. It doesn't actually make sense. But these are the things we're striving for. So a lot of good news coming out today. I do feel our trajectory on motion. I mean, if we have Meta come out with a stable coin and start to compete with WeChat on the WhatsApp and the Instagram pipeline, we are in for such mass adoption. It's undeniable. And I can't even imagine what's going to happen when the generation of children that are born with a comfort and familiarity of this tech begin to develop the platforms that they want. I don't see any future for traditional financial rails. The banking mechanisms are all boring and lame and they suck. And if you grow up and you've opened a Web3 wallet as like an 8-year-old, I mean, this is going to be your nativity. So I am so bullish on everything happening. All of this news is fantastic. Coinbase going into the S&P, being also one of the leaders in fighting the powers that be in the United States. They do want a little regulatory capture, but at the same time, they are fighting the fight and funding the legal battles that are really at the forefront of the industry. So big exciting stuff. The SEC keeps moving forward on their plans. We have a lot of allies in their camp. And with that being said, the markets do look pretty good. We have some organic buy momentum. With that being said, stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow, and thank you for watching. Give me a sub if you can. Much love, all.